Hey everybody, it is Flaco here. I just made a digital art drawing of one of my favorite all-time bands, the Ramones. In this video, I'm going to show you how I made it and talk about how the Ramones and punk rock in general influenced me and my art. Started really listening to the Ramones when I was probably about 13 or 14 years old. They were definitely my favorite band all through high school. Some of my favorite songs were The KKK Took My Baby Away, Cretin Hop, Rockaway Beach, Sheena is a Punk Rocker. I could go on and on. I loved the Ramones because they were loud, fast, and aggressive, so they appealed to my teenaged angst. But they also had a lighter side. They could be romantic and upbeat sometimes, as opposed to just the constant anger that is in most other punk rock music. I was really kind of obsessed with punk rock in general during my high school years. I was going to local shows every weekend and spent most of my free time listening to the music, finding more bands, and learning everything I could about it. Very briefly, I did try to be in a band, but we only managed to get together a few times, and it just didn't work out. I was a typical shy, skinny kid that wasn't into sports or whatever else the popular kids were doing, so the whole outsider nature of punk rock really resonated with me. Most of your teenage years are about trying to find an identity, and at the time, punk gave that to me, so that's basically what my life revolved around for a while. I was a punk, and that's all that mattered to me. It seems kind of silly now, but when I was 16 and 17, I took it very seriously. I'm going to do a super brief history lesson here on punk so I can better explain how it affected me. At its beginning, punk was basically a response to mainstream 1970s rock. At that time, a lot of music was either really friendly, safe, and sentimental, or really over-the-top production and technicality with 10-minute guitar solos. Punk wanted to bring back the rebellious nature of early rock and roll and strip it back down to its raw core. They said you don't have to be some amazing, technically skilled musician to start a band and make music that means something. It was all just pure energy and expression, and it was simple and accessible. The Ramones famously barely knew how to play their instruments when they first started. That also played into the whole DIY attitude that was another big part of punk. Anybody could start a band, play shows, and make a record. You don't need a big label or company behind you. You can do it yourself. While I was in high school, there was also a pretty big heavy metal scene going on. I did go to plenty of those shows, and I could appreciate it, but I could never totally relate. There was a certain level of technicality that kind of alienated me. I was never going to play guitar or drums as well as they could, so I would never really be one of them. That wasn't a problem with punk. All you really needed was a desire to express yourself. I also obviously didn't relate to the mainstream music that was on the radio. I can appreciate some of those types of artists now, but at the time I just thought of it as crap with no substance. As I got a little bit older and into college, I stopped being as hardcore into punk. I still listen to some of the old bands here and there, but it's not what defines me anymore. A lot of the philosophy of punk rock stuck with me though. It was in college when I started getting into art, and a lot of those punk ideals that were still in me influenced what kind of art spoke to me and how my style developed. Like how I wasn't super into really technical music, I never cared for immaculate, technical, realistic art. I respected it, but it didn't really inspire me. My favorite artist ended up being Jean-Michel Basquiat. I felt his art had the same kind of raw, stripped-down energy that punk rock had, and he was in many ways rebelling against what was going on in the fine art world at the time. It's definitely not a coincidence that his career developed during the same time that punk music was developing. I also got really into street art and graffiti. I liked it because the style felt more intense and in your face, and it wasn't constrained by the rules of traditional painting. It wasn't in a gallery. Artists were just going out and doing it. A little later in my college career, I got into digital art, and for a while it was very experimental and interactive digital art. I liked it because it didn't have established expectations like traditional painting and drawing, or the rules that you kind of had to follow for corporate graphic design. You could basically do anything you want because it was all very new. Even the idea of choosing to do art as a career or a lifestyle is still pretty anti-mainstream and non-traditional, and that spoke to me and still does. I don't want to be in a job doing the same thing that I don't care about every day just to make money to live. Going into today, I'm really making an effort to make a living with my art on my own through the internet and social media. These days, you don't have to be with a big gallery or production studio or design company to make it as an artist. It's that DIY attitude again. Maybe it wasn't the influence of punk specifically that made me attracted to the kind of art and lifestyle that I am following now. Maybe there was something inside me as a person even before that naturally led me to punk, and it was the same thing that led me into my current life. It's hard to say. I do know that I felt a certain way, and punk was the first thing that let me articulate that and express myself in a way that I felt was true to me. I also know that I'm still using a lot of the language and philosophies that I developed during the time that I was so into punk. 16-year-old me would probably call 26-year-old me today a poser or a sellout because I'm not hardcore or whatever anymore. But I like to think that I'll always have at least a little punk rock inside me. I hope you enjoyed seeing this video, the drawing, how I made it, and having an insight into some of my biggest and longtime influences. If you want to see more of my work, check out the rest of my videos and subscribe to the channel, and check out my website, Tumblr, and Instagram. They're all linked in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.